What is going on, everybody? What is going on? Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show on this Friday, August 7th, 8 a.m. on the dot. All right, we got a packed show today. We got a lot going on today. A lot going on. Everybody's enjoying their cup of coffee. And we got actually a ton of topics to get over today. So I'm actually looking forward to doing the show, and certainly looking forward to hitting on a number of different things, still things trickling in. Not really anything, crazy as far as new stuff on Jonathan Kuminga or PJ Washington or some of these other players, but we got a couple of things in there that we could throw into the mix. So we'll crank out a show this morning. I do have a guest this morning. And then everybody can go out and enjoy their weekend. And I'm still kind of working on the schedule for next week. I think I'm going to have Anthony Slater on next week. So we're working on that. I'll keep you guys posted on that. All right, let me give everyone a quick rundown of what we got going on for the show. And then we'll get started. And I'll try to kind of move a little bit quicker today just because we do have a guest. So I'll make sure to do that. All right, first thing that I'm going to do, I know that first box. There's a lot of words in that first box. I know. That's on me, guys. That's on me. I saw something yesterday. Sports Illustrated did championship odds, power rankings. Let me see. Championship power rankings. So they're basically taking into consideration where every team is right now. Gotta be honest with everybody. Kind of shocked where they put the Lakers. They are very, very high and optimistic on the Los Angeles Lakers. So I was a little bit, interested in seeing that. I say that because I think the way I've seen most people put the Lakers so far this offseason is much different than I think Sports Illustrated put it, but we'll put it there. I think that'll be interesting to talk about. Good stuff here. A couple good articles, specifically on Lake Show Life, that the Lakers are basically paying Walker Kessler to be an all-star. The expectations for Walker Kessler, if you're paying him the money that you're paying him, giving him the draft compensation that you gave him in order to get him, that the Lakers are basically paying Walker Kessler to be an all-star. Will he be? I mean, for me, I will tell you this upcoming season, the player that I'm most looking forward to watch from the Los Angeles Lakers is Walker Kessler. I don't even know. Is it close? I mean, I could look at some of the youngsters. I could point at some other players. But to be honest with you, I think there's such an interest and a fascination that I have with Walker Kessler just specifically. So I think Walker Kessler to me is the most interesting player this upcoming season. But I think the article is good that basically what the Lakers are paying for is they're paying for Walker Kessler to be an all-star. All right, we'll see how Walker Kessler obviously does. I got a couple of updates here on Jonathan Kuminga and PJ Washington. One on one of the teams that's probably out on the Jonathan Kuminga sweepstakes, and the other on PJ Washington. Masai Ujiri had a quote, or at least there was Mark Stein was reporting in his Substack how Masai Ujiri values PJ Washington and what exactly that means from there. So could this be one of those situations where, the Lakers, if they might love PJ Washington, maybe they love him, maybe they don't, whatever the case is it even realistic if they want to hold on to him? So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to try to get next week, probably try to get Kevin Gray Jr. on, who has done some work, continues to do work for that all city Dallas, I think is what it's called. And he's been on the show before, but I think with him, we could talk about some of these players that they have on their roster, who they're going to keep, who they're not. Are there any ties here? Does Masai Ujiri care about trading with the Lakers, or does he not care at all? Whatever improves his team, since obviously that front office has been changed. So we'll keep an eye on that. Adam Auslund, who does a phenomenal job, covers the Clippers. So he does the pre, the half, the post for the Los Angeles Clippers. Does it on AM 570. Obviously, I've been working with AM 570 as well on some Lakers content. He's going to join the show. And one of kind of the bombshells yesterday that came out was this whole Kawhi Leonard stuff. And it just feels like there are more and more angles of Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers circumventing the salary cap. And if that's the case, what is it going to mean? But something's cooking here. It has to be cooking. I mean, I had Eric Pincus on a couple of days ago, and he's like, yeah, it probably doesn't look great for the Los Angeles Clippers. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be found guilty and that all the evidence is going to be there. But Adam Auslund's going to come on. We'll talk a little bit about the Western Conference, Kawhi, Rui Hachimura joining the Clippers. So we'll hit on a few things there. I thought there was something interesting that came out on Cameron Carr's role. There was an anonymous Lakers front office executive that told Keith Smith at Summer League that Cameron Carr will have to fight for playing time, but the chance to play right away is there for him. So I think there's a lot of Laker fans that have some excitement about Cameron Carr. They want to see what he's all about. They want to see if he can be, a real contributor this upcoming season. Well, it sounds like he's going to get a little bit of an opportunity of it. And then the last topic we'll get into today before we hit on some NBA news, Shaq is glad that DeAndre Ayton is gone, knew the Lakers would start over with Luka. So it takes a little jab, a little shot at DeAndre Ayton on Ayton's way out the door. And those are going to be our main topics here. We'll have a couple of NBA stories that we'll get into as well. But as you guys can tell, kind of a packed show here. So here on a Friday on August 7th, who would have known? Who would have known that it was going to be this packed today? All right, let me take a look at some of the comments here, and we'll see what we got here. Like the beer hoodie sleep. This is a badass brewery. Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever been to Julian Mountain area, so it's a little out there. It's like even maybe an hour further in the San Diego front, but it's solid place. I don't know why I'm thinking about a beer at 8:07 a.m. It's a little early. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm not sure about this Lakers team. They're in a rebuild, and I'll have to see the first 20 games of the season to make a redetermination on how good I think they'll be because this lineup is new. Okay. So let's do this here. I think this is going to be a good transition for us, obviously to talk about the rest of the championship odds and everything else, because I think it is really, really tough to determine what the Lakers exactly are. I mean, I think that part is safe to say. But let's pop this article up on Sports Illustrated. So we'll get this thing up, and I think it's interesting. Where do the Lakers rank amongst some of the other NBA teams? Now, I'm going to continue to say this. I think this is wildly optimistic on the Lakers, but it is kind of a fresher, different perspective that I haven't really seen. So let's just do this here real quick. NBA championship power rankings. How do the Lakers, 76ers stack up against fellow title contenders post LeBron James? So if we just go down here, I want you guys to kind of look at this because I think it's interesting. And they'll go, they're looking at obviously some of I think they start at number 8, something along those lines. They start number 10. Okay, so just real quick, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I do want you guys to see this. They got the Pistons at number 10. So the Pistons, 10th best odds. This is the team that had the number one. They were number 1 in the East last year as far as standings go. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see what number 9 is. Obviously, everybody's taking into account what happened this offseason, where guys moved and everything else. Boston lose Jaylen Brown, so this is where the Celtics are. We'll keep going there. Again, I think there will be a little bit of surprise. Let's see. Number 8, the Denver Nuggets. By the way, SI, relax with the ads. We got it. We understand. There's ads here. 7, they got the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're still trying to figure out, obviously, the rest of their offseason. The number 6 team in this championship odds, according to Sports Illustrated, the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I'll tell you this. There aren't too many power rankings that you're going to put out there or people are going to see. Again, these are championship odds. Some people are doing, where do teams – I saw one. You could keep it right here. You don't have to move it. But David Aldridge did one NBA's offseason rankings for The Athletic. He did these rankings based off of how the offseason went for each team. And he had the Lakers a lot lower down on that list. I think it was number 11 overall. But he thought they had a better offseason than the Celtics, the Spurs, the Mavs, the Rockets, the Pistons, the Timberwolves, and the Suns. But this is a little bit different, and this is why I wanted it. You're looking at the teams you feel like got the best odds of winning an NBA championship. That seems very, very high for the Los Angeles Lakers as far as what they've done, what they accomplished in the offseason. But I think for me, the bigger thing is there's just so many unknowns. How the hell are you supposed to know what the Lakers are? Based off of what the Lakers were able to accomplish this offseason. There's just so many new players that are a part of this team that I think that one's a little bit tougher to determine and again to have that championship odds. I don't even think I looked any further down just for the hell of it, for the practice of it. What's number 5? Let's see what number 5 is here real quick. Who number 5 is? 7 more ads. Miami. Let's see number 4. Seems pretty high for Miami, but it is the Miami Heat. If I see this girl one more time, I'm going to lose it. The Philadelphia 76ers at number 4. So they got Philly at 4. Spurs at number 3. I'm going to say they go Knicks 2, Thunder 1. Let's see what they do. No. Okay. OKC number 2 and the New York Knicks number 1 coming out of the Eastern Conference. So anyways, I thought that was kind of a cool thing to take a look at here in regards to, obviously where the Lakers sit in regards to that. All right, real quick here, because Adam Auslund's going to join us in about 5 minutes. I'm going to hit on this Walker Kessler stuff real quick. So there've been a couple articles out there in regards to Walker Kessler. And again, I think this stuff is interesting, the way Walker Kessler is viewed and how he's going to be viewed for the Lakers here moving forward. So Jordana Clark's article for Lake Show Life. Lakers already have a Walker Kessler problem of their own making. It's kind of an interesting way to put it. Kessler's contract is 4 years, 130, but he hasn't proven he's worth that kind of money yet. Kessler's average annual salary ranks 10th in the NBA among centers and 9th ahead of him, and the 9 ahead of him have all been all-stars, and the Lakers are betting he becomes one. So the biggest thing to look at, I wouldn't look at that as a problem. I also wouldn't look at that as a negative thing. I think Lakers paid Walker Kessler for a number of different reasons, and they traded for him for a number of different reasons. And I think we could all kind of sit here and go through all the reasons of why they did, but we already know it. They don't have a starting center that they felt like could be the foundational piece to their team. In order for Luka Dončić and Austin Reeves to be the best versions of themselves, they need a defensive anchor, and they just got one in Walker Kessler. And frankly, I think this pressure of, hey, can Walker Kessler be an all-star? To be honest with you, I think it's expected. Like, I think if you look at Walker Kessler over these next couple of years, let's put it this way. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Austin Reeves. And, I know people feel a certain way about Austin Reeves, but if you look at Reeves in general and you ask the question of, he just got paid $180 million, his ass better be an all-star. Like, there are certain players now where your contract will reflect how people obviously look at you and what they expect from you once the season starts. And I don't think there's any difference there between what the Lakers and what fans are going to be expecting from Austin Reeves. Maybe if he didn't get injured last year, he would have been an all-star, but he wasn't. He was also making between $13 and $15 million for the last couple of years. You start getting in that, range that he's in, you're making 30 or more a year, then that's obviously going to change everything in regards to what the expectations are going to be for Austin Reeves. And I think Walker Kessler is going to fall into a similar boat. I think for the Lakers, yes, they are paying for what they feel like is going to be an upside. Not what Walker Kessler has already done in his career, but the potential of what he's going to do. That's incredibly important. I think a lot of Laker fans, are excited about Walker Kessler, seeing what he's going to be. I think this article about they've created a problem of their own making, I don't agree with that. I do think that there is a legitimate case to be made that they almost didn't have a choice of going out there and getting Walker Kessler, making sure that they were grabbing a player that they felt like could be a part of the future for years to come. And, frankly, if you really look at this, what was your pitch going to be to Luka Dončić in the offseason if you weren't able to get Walker Kessler? And also on the, we saw this, there was a story in an article in the past about how plan B was going to be Mitchell Robinson. Was that who you wanted to be your starting center for the Lakers? Somebody who wasn't a starter with the Knicks and was playing about 20 minutes a game. So I'll say this about Walker Kessler. I am excited that he's a Laker, and I think there are going to be expectations that over the next couple of years, he's going to need to be, at least in the conversation as an all-star for the Lakers to probably feel good about this move. But it's not something that I'm concerned about, and I think Walker Kessler will thrive with the Lakers. So we'll see what happens. Okay. I'm going to wait a second here on the Kuminga and the PJ Washington stuff. I'll probably talk actually a little bit with Adam Auslund about it, kind of get a different perspective, maybe not looking at it from just a Laker lens. But let me welcome in our guest, Adam Auslund, nice enough to join us on the broadcast. Adam, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. I was trying to distract here and show you my NBA Jam cabinet as part of my background. Like, does this work or what? I guess I should have mirrored and unmirrored the camera here, but this is like my new backdrop. People have their cool albums in the back or their books in the back when they're doing a vodcast. No. I'm going to have NBA Jam coming up soon.
You won. Like that's a W right there in itself. That's badass. That's a great idea to do that.
Boom.
Now, do you actually turn around and play?
That might be an even better distraction from all the Clippers investigations going on right now. I should just start playing games on NBA Jam instead and use Danny Manning with the Clippers.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, there's, I'm sure, a lot going on in your world right now in regards to all this stuff around the Clippers. Let me just, before I get into that, because there's some things I'd like to ask you. I want to ask you about Rui Hachimura joining the Clippers. Obviously, I want to talk about the Kawhi investigation. Can I just get your thoughts real quick on an outsider looking in, what you thought of the Walker Kessler move to the Lakers?
I thought it was necessary, but it also could be looked at as an overpay if he doesn't live up to expectations, and we don't really know because he doesn't have a big enough body of work to say with certainty that this is the guy to help carry you with Luka Dončić, his running mate in the front court, to help get the Lakers to that next level. 5 games he played last season. He hasn't played competitive basketball in a playoff setting before. Hell, I don't think they've been in a play-in situation with Walker Kessler up to this point. So I think it was a risk you had to take to show that, hey, Luka, we're building around you. We know there's a contract extension that you're going to be eligible for coming up in future seasons. We want to make sure you know that you are being rewarded for being a Laker here. And if this is the guy that you want, we're going to go out there and get him for you. But now Walker Kessler has a ton of pressure on him like he's never had before to actually live up to that contract. I don't know how he's going to react to that. We have no idea.
By the way, fair, right? Like, I could be optimistic about it. Me being optimistic about it doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, I could be optimistic that I know I've watched the Lakers over these last couple of years. Specifically, listen, once they obviously lost Anthony Davis and Luka comes to this team, they haven't had an anchor on defense. And, if you look at the Clippers in their days, maybe Ivica Zubac was kind of that anchor. And I know there were more pieces than just Zubac, but in order, I think, to be a team that's taken seriously, you obviously got to have a presence on defense. Yes, there's going to be a lot of people who question whether that was the right move or not. And the only person who could shut everybody else up is Walker Kessler. So we'll obviously see he's getting paid to, and the compensation that the Lakers gave up, he'll be getting paid, and there'll be some expectations. Will you at least be in the conversation to be an all-star in the Western Conference? It ain't going to be easy, but that's going to be hopefully the challenge here these next couple of years for him.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Alan, it would be one thing to give him this contract. It would be one to give the compensation that it took to get him. They had to do both of those things to get Walker Kessler. They had to, maybe at least based off a small body of work, overpay for a player of his caliber. And they had to give up assets to get him all at once. Sure. So, yeah, I just think it's going to be really interesting to see what tier of center is he when he's being fully featured next to a guy like Luka Dončić now.
All right. We were trying to connect. I think it was about a week, 2 weeks ago or so. And obviously some more stuff has come out around the Kawhi Leonard investigation. So yesterday I saw this, and I know you did as well. Pablo Torre, who has really been kind of on a mission here of trying to figure out this Kawhi Leonard and did the Clippers circumvent the salary cap. So yesterday, the story is that Kawhi Leonard allegedly had an undisclosed sponsorship agreement, allegedly worth millions of dollars, with the company that designed the Clippers video board inside the Intuit Dome. I think Daktronics is the actual video board. That's the company that controls that. Tory also cited an anonymous former Clippers official who said they knew that Kawhi Leonard had a sponsorship deal with Daktronics. Look, brother, I know this is literally an investigation going on, so there's only so much that we know. So a lot of this is going to be just our assumption, or we're reading this investigation. Just from your perspective, you're watching this all unfold. What's going through your mind? Because the conversation about the Clippers is not about, Brandon Ingram coming in and how they're taking a much younger approach, and Darius Garland is there, and what are they going to do with Benedict Mathurin? The conversation, it seems like all offseason, has been about the Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers investigation. What do you make of where we sit today?
Yeah, in Summer League, it was Keaton Wagler, and that was nice. We could get back to basketball for a second, but this has been hanging over our head for almost a year now. I mean, literally, it started back in September with the first couple of episodes from Pablo, and then the NBA's, they were doing an investigation. At this point, the one thing I kept thinking about last night is Toronto just going to completely back out of the trade? Are they going to say this is enough? We don't want to be involved with whatever's happening here. Like, accusations do not equal guilt, but the problem for the Clippers right now is in the CBA bylaws, they specifically state that direct evidence is not needed to prove cap circumvention. Circumstantial evidence, where there isn't a rational explanation otherwise, can prove guilt in this case. Now, would Adam Silver want to take on Steve Ballmer, and you would assume whatever legal recourse and lawyers and whatever team he puts together? I don't know about that. But at some point, I think a lot of people are looking at Adam Silver in the NBA here and saying, you guys are the ones that look a little bit incompetent that it's taking this long, even though it's an independent investigation. They're not the ones doing it. It still optics-wise looks bad on part of the NBA.
I agree.
So I almost wonder if it's going to force Adam Silver to put the hammer down to say that, like, see, it doesn't matter who it is. Nobody is above the CBA bylaws here. Whether it's Steve Ballmer or anyone else, I am not afraid to really put down a harsh penalty here. But we don't know what the actual investigation, not Pablo's investigation, is coming up with currently.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you almost feel like the only investigator in this whole thing is Pablo Torre. You're right that there's a whole, obviously firm that's putting together the investigation. I think your point about the league, about Adam Silver, oh, what a terrible look. And as much as, I want to sit here, everybody looks bad, right? Kawhi looks awful. The Clippers look awful. The companies that have been involved look awful. And
I look awful. I can't sleep.
There's nothing you could do about it, but it puts a bad look on the NBA. Kind of looks stupid, right? So the Adam Silver is representing the entire league. He's not just representing one franchise. He looks stupid, which means the league kind of looks dumb. This obviously is much bigger of a story than just a box score, or did somebody make an all-star game like that? It's kind of like, you're obviously looking at this. We already saw what happened right at the start of last season, where you had the gambling stuff, and there's still things that are trickling out at Terry Rozier, Malik Beasley. I don't know if you saw some of those maybe a month and a half ago, where they started highlighting, hey, here are the specific games that they thought that he bet on 3.5 rebounds, and you're watching us. Like, it kind of looks like a shit show, and this obviously doesn't help the matter at all. How do you think, when the dust settles, what do you think happens? Because I think I've always just assumed that in situations like this, the league will do everything possible to try to sweep this thing under the rug, and, hey, everything's all good and all that stuff. I now no longer have that feeling. I feel like there's too much out there. This has gone on too long, to where my assumption is that the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, that things will happen here that maybe we didn't think would happen a couple of months ago.
Yeah. If it's as bad as it looks currently, and the looks can be deceiving here, but I would say what came out a week before or a couple of weeks ago with Rhode Island FC and Kawhi maybe having an ownership stake with them, but it was undisclosed. But Daniel Tice actually did a little press conference where he held up a jersey. Why didn't Kawhi say anything that he was part owner? That didn't land with me. And I don't think it landed with most people. That looked like Pablo was reaching a little bit. But this new one with Daktronics, this one, while he's going off of high-level anonymous sources that won't go on record currently, like there's just getting to a point where there's too much smoke and there's enough circumstantial evidence. And if there's a mountain of it that the guy from Free Solo wasn't able to climb, then like you're starting to worry about there just being too much of that to where the NBA can actually ignore it, to where they could sweep it under the rug because they would look feckless and incompetent. So that's my concern. Perception can be reality sometimes. But the question is, what do the other NBA owners want out of this? How do they feel about it? Adam Silver works for them. Do they want Ballmer punished? Do they want to open up Pandora's box? Feel like, oh, we got some skeletons in the closet here too. I don't know if we want more of these investigations happening right now. Ultimately, it could come down to that.
Yeah, it's fascinating how it plays out, but it is also just kind of the whole thing is just a bad look for everybody. There's nobody walking away from this saying to themselves, I feel great about that. So see what happens. I mean, on the Kawhi front, you think it's more likely that we'll get into training camp and he's still with the Clippers rather than traded to the Toronto Raptors?
I think it's a real possibility, and that would be a very awkward situation. Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick have been at the training facility. During Summer League, Kawhi was going to the Raptors games and sitting courtside. Brandon Ingram was sitting courtside for the Clippers games. So it felt like, while the trade wasn't completely finalized, it was agreed to in principle here. And for that thing to completely fall apart, and the Clippers getting 2 first-round picks and good first-round picks from the Toronto Raptors for Kawhi, who's on an expiring deal, and he was looking to get $120 million in an extension from Toronto, I mean, that really hurts everybody. I think the Clippers, I've certainly felt like they got good value for him at the right time. And if this trade doesn't go through, that could be devastating for where this organization is trying to turn in terms of its life cycle of a franchise and trying to have this youth movement here. And Keaton Wagler and the 2-1-3 era and the Kawhi Leonard era is over, but it's never over right now. That's what it feels like. I know Clipper Nation, they're just so frustrated with and exhausted with how long this has taken and feeling like it's just dragged out. And it's just death by paper cuts with every Pablo Torre episode that drops currently.
Okay, I got a couple questions I want to hit you on, more NBA related, couple around the Lakers as well. I just want to get your opinion again from your perspective. Before I do so, what did you make of Rui signing with the Clippers? And I saw his presser, seems excited to be there and everything else. I mean, I can tell you from a Laker perspective, Rui was awesome for the Lakers, especially in the postseason. Now, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of regular season games where we watched Rui Hachimura and say, I forgot Rui was on the court. How come he's not getting more rebounds? But damn, it felt like when the money was on the line, Rui Hachimura was coming through for the Lakers. And, if you watched any of those playoff games, he was unbelievable in the playoffs.
Still can't believe JJ left him off the court when they needed a three-pointer at the end of game 4.
Listen, the fact that they were playing the Thunder and that was game 4 and it was inevitable they were going to lose that series, I think that one got a lot less conversation. But can you imagine if that was like a game 6 or something, trying to force a game 7 and he keeps him off the bench? I have a theory. My theory is they were ready for the season and they didn't want to go back to Oklahoma City, because I don't know of another theory out there that you would have Rui not there, not literally, but you know what I'm talking about. What was your thoughts about the signing, and what do you think? What do you think of Rui with the Clippers?
I will say that was the moment, and I tweeted this out at the time. I said, "Oh, he's definitely not coming back to the Lakers now." And I started to try to like tweet this into existence. When I saw Tobias Harris was the guy that went to San Antonio instead of Rui, I said, "Oh," and I put out the emoji eyes. I wonder where Rui could be going next. I felt like there was a decent chance he'd want to stay in Los Angeles, and the Clippers could make a run at him. And hey, I've been hearing from years from Laker fans that he's like the next Kawhi or something like that because of Phil Handy and what he said, training with Kawhi in Toronto and then working with Rui Hachimura with the Lakers. And while obviously his career trajectory isn't headed that way, is he a very good player and shooter in this league that can be a playoff riser? And does he have more to his game than maybe we've seen the past few years with the Lakers if he's featured a little bit more on a younger team that isn't necessarily competing for a championship? That's kind of what I'm interested in seeing. Can Rui scale up his game a little bit more if he gets featured, if he gets more touches and a higher usage out there? Because I do think it's significant the way he's performed in the playoffs. What did he shoot? 60% from three last year. Like, he is made for those moments, and that wasn't the first time that he stepped up. So now you're asking him to step up in a larger role with this Clippers team. I just want to see his full arsenal that he has, and I think he's going to get a shot to prove that now.
Adam, one of the bigger stories in the offseason around Lakers basketball, but kind of, to be honest with you, his name's come up so much here. Jonathan Kuminga's name has come up a ton. And I want to get your opinion on this because, you know, obviously when he was with the Golden State Warriors, we're seeing him a handful of times. I know he goes to Atlanta, doesn't play a ton there, but certainly it feels like the Hawks have made a decision on Jonathan Kuminga, and I don't think he's going to be a part of their future. I want to, so for listeners, I'll give everyone a quick update because something came out yesterday, and then I'll get your opinion on this as well. John Krasinski, who does a great job covering the Minnesota Timberwolves for The Athletic, he had said, and I'll kind of sum it up here, that he doesn't see the Timberwolves getting involved because Kuminga, or basically because they only have a minimum contract to offer. And even though he would be a good fit there, even though the Minnesota Timberwolves have been brought up, the main two teams have been brought up has been the Lakers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We know those are obviously the two teams that have been brought up the most. But Minnesota's been mentioned. I might have saw for a quick second. I think the Clippers might have been mentioned for a quick second, but I don't know if there was, you know, true run to that story. What do you make of the Kuminga chatter, the conversation this offseason, how you think he could potentially fit with the Lakers? What do you make of him specifically?
I'm a fan. I've been on Kuminga Island for some time. I feel like there's a possibility that the Golden State Warriors in that situation was just the worst possible place for him to be. Mind you, he played pretty well for them at times during the 2022 run to the title, and people forget about that. He was on that team. He performed at times in the playoffs, and so it was always kind of a head scratcher that he wasn't being used a little bit more. But I think it's just because, well, he's a heavy ISO guy. They're playing with a motion offense. They have a veteran team, a championship team with guys that they just want the highest IQ basketball players out there at all times that are willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the team. And meanwhile, he's a young guy with a ton of talent and potential and thinking like, well, I could be used a little bit more here. I could be featured. And that wasn't the situation for that to happen. Now, with Atlanta, you could also look at the two games that they took off the New York Knicks, which those were the most two games that anybody beat them in a playoff series on their way to win the finals in that first round. I mean, he played well. He played really well in those couple of games. The difference was he was owed, I think, $24 million this season, and it was a team option.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't going to pick that up, obviously. And maybe he thinks too much of himself and he keeps chasing the bag or feeling like he deserves to have his own team and he should take a little bit of a step back and sacrifice a little bit more because he can be a really good complementary high-level role player in this league because he can do it on both ends. The question is the shooting really ever going to come around? Like, is he going to be a more consistent shooter to be more of a 3-and-D guy that can scale up and do a little bit more at times with second units? I don't know. We haven't seen enough to know for sure. But I would like him, if you're a Lakers fan, because they didn't get enough big defensive wings. If they do end up getting him, I think that would be a win, depending on what the contract is, because of how he can be used in theory. And if you can get the right amount of talent out of him, and JJ Redick might be able to do that, like, this is a player that still has so much potential.
Yeah, I kind of aligned with you on this one. There's really no risk. And now people could say, now, if he came into a sign and trade deal, you're going to have him for 3 years. But even the 3-year deal, it's probably going to be 15 a year, right? It's probably going to be 45 million for a player like Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe Atlanta didn't want him at 24. Maybe they had a different vision. Maybe they got enough wings and they just don't need him because they literally have, that's kind of their strong suit, is having all these wings. But that doesn't mean that at that price point, obviously that wouldn't be a lot of value for the Lakers. And there's a glaring hole at the power, at the wing spot. And yes, they got Zaire Williams and Matisse Thybulle and some of these other players, but I think those were more backup roles, not necessarily a starting role. All right, anything for me, Adam? Anything you want to throw my way here?
All right, tell me about Rui Hachimura and his defense, because my understanding is he can get a little bit lost off ball here and there, but when he has a one-on-one matchup against a bigger guy instead of a smaller guy, he's pretty solid on that end. You tell me.
Yeah, he's not going to move the quickest laterally, right? So the bigger the player, the better off he is. And he's got, I think Rui may be underrated for his kind of size, physique, can hold his own. Like, I think, nobody's going to really bully ball Rui Hachimura. The problem with Rui is speed. So you get some guys with, obviously that quick first step. Some of these other players in the league that are they're not going to power you, but they're going to finesse you, and they're just athletic, and that's obviously very common in the league. That's where I think Rui will hurt. Now, to be honest, I think Rui will fit well with the Clippers. I really do, just because I think he's a vet. Everybody will like him. And he's got a proven track record in the NBA. Yeah, granted, he's not, nobody's trying to say he's a 4-time All-Star and has got these championships, but I think he's a respected player in the league, and I think he'll be a good fit. But defensively, yeah, he'll have some of his limitations. I think the bigger frustration that Laker fans have with Rui more than any other thing is just his rebounding. For him to have the size that he has, the physique that he has, it always felt like he wasn't grabbing boards.
Can I ask you one more regarding LeBron here? Because the first thing I thought of when you guys made all those signings with Quentin Grimes and Mamu and Colin Sexton was, if you took away Quentin Grimes and Colin Sexton, you could have used that $25 million and just paid LeBron James. Would they have been a better team if they did that, in your opinion?
They're kind of in a weird spot, because I think short term, obviously having LeBron on your team, they're better off today having LeBron on their team than not having LeBron on their team. But I think that you're still not competing for a championship. You're still probably third or fourth or somewhere around there in the Western Conference. And are you really just kind of kicking the can down the road and not fully rebuilding around Luka Dončić? I think that's what they were facing. So can I make a case that they're better off with LeBron on the roster? Sure, absolutely. LeBron was really good last year again in that series against the Houston Rockets. He was the best player on both sides. Obviously, Luka didn't play. Reeves didn't come back to the fifth game, but LeBron was awesome. LeBron was phenomenal, and is still really, really good. The problem, I think, is last year when they didn't give him that player option, it was the first time LeBron was going to become a true free agent. And I think that was the indication of, like, we'd like to move on. They had 8 years together. So it's not like these franchises were just together for 2 years. The franchise and player were only together for 2 or 3 years or something along those lines. So the way I look at it is, it just felt inevitable that this thing was going to end. And do I think this was more of a Laker thing? I kind of do. Now, will we ever kind of get the full details there? I'm not sure. And am I shocked LeBron said, all right, well, I'll go to the East? I'm shocked that he went to Philly, even though I love that he went to Philly. But I'm not shocked that He took a big pay cut to do it and is basically trying to go win an NBA championship. In a way, it could be seen as kind of a little bit of a FU to the Lakers indirectly by saying, I'll take a big discount here and I'll go try to compete for a championship.
Is that what you're seeing in the chat? People going, well, wait a second. He'll take the discount with somebody else, but he wouldn't take it with us here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of Laker fans that said, over the years, how come he didn't do this to try to help the Lakers, this and that. I don't fault LeBron for getting the most amount of money he can get because he is still arguably the most powerful player in the NBA, one of the most powerful players in sports. So I don't fault LeBron for getting, if he took $52 million from the Lakers last year, he probably made them 2 times, 3 times, whatever that amount is. So I'm not going to fault LeBron for that. However, to go from 52 to 4, I think in the offseason, people were thinking when the offseason began for the Lakers, will LeBron come back for 25? Will he come back for 30? But I think the franchise thought something different. And I think the franchise, again, this is just my assumption, looking at it from my perspective. I don't have any insider on it, but I feel like this was more of a Laker decision. And then once kind of LeBron had an idea of, right, this might be the direction they're going, then it was like, all right, well, I'll go do it my way.
I think the new direction for this team and having more clarity on Luka and who you're going to surround him with to try to get that next championship was probably the biggest reason. But it is strange seeing a guy in today's CBA that good actually get to unrestricted free agency. And it was LeBron James.
It's true. Well, what's even more odd, and obviously it's never happened before, it's 24th freaking season in the league. Right? That just, you hit 20 years, that's it. It should be a wrap. You're not good. You're sitting at the end of the bench. You're high-fiving some people. You're kissing some babies, and that's it. You're done. LeBron still, however, whatever your view is on LeBron, and trust me on this channel, and I think he's got a very polarizing, people have an opinion on him.
Oh, yeah.
You can't knock what this man continues to accomplish going into year 24.
I kind of think the Lakers never planned on him being this good for this long. And
I agree.
That also messed with their plans a little bit. Like, oh, he wants us to still build around him. We were kind of thinking about moving into a different era by this point, and I don't think we could do that, but he is still really good. That makes things tough.
Well, think about when he came. When he came, he was already, 16 seasons in. So you were just 15, 16, whatever the number was. So you're probably thinking you got 4 or 5 years with LeBron. He had 8 with the Lakers. So 8 years with the Lakers. And, obviously it just it was like a slow trickle down, kind of downhill once, you got through 2020. I know they made one more Western Conference Finals run, but for the most part, they kind of never were a true threat after that, that 2020 season. 2021 AD got hurt. And then after that, it was kind of like, all right, are they really a threat moving forward? So, be fascinating. I think it's going to be fun to see him in Philly. I like the fit there, and I know that's going to be what it looks like on paper. But I mean, look, they got Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey. That's why people should be most excited for somebody that's watching the NBA or watching Philly. But on top of that, it's like, all right, use Embiid very scarcely until you get to the postseason. And then LeBron will be LeBron. I think he'll just fit in wherever LeBron needs to go. Wherever he needs to fit in, he'll fit in. So.
I honestly think they might be good enough to get out of the East, even without Embiid. Like, they could be that good because you can play a completely different way without him. And they did it a lot last season where they played more up-tempo. And they have 4 of, I think, the top 14 guys in fast break points from last season. Jaylen Brown, VJ Edgecombe, Maxey, and LeBron. They can play fast. Defensively, they might struggle at times, but it's like they got Dean Wade. They got Anthony Simons. Like, this team has so much firepower. They may just overwhelm you regardless of if Embiid is out there or not.
And it's a big if, but, if Embiid is able to just give you 25 a night in the postseason, it's still Embiid. Now, offensively, the question is going to be for them how much they sacrifice for each other. But I think they'll be okay. Like, I think there's too much being made. Jaylen Brown's won an NBA championship, and he's won a Finals MVP. LeBron, I don't need to tell you his resume. To be honest with you, it's more these other guys, like the guys who are already in Philly. How are you willing to sacrifice to get something that Philly hasn't had since the early 80s? So
Yeah.
it'll be fun to watch. The league in general will be fun to watch. I think next week we might get the schedules out, so then they could start showing us how many nationally televised games. Remember Adam Silver's plea to LeBron, "Hey, can you hurry, please? I'm trying to get the schedule going." So
meanwhile, Clippers fans are like, "Hey, Adam, can you hurry? Can this investigation get done, please?"
You're not wrong about that. Adam, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on. I know we reached out yesterday. I wanted to get your thoughts on the Kawhi stuff, but thank you for the time, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Always, Alan. Appreciate you having me, man.
All right, man. Have a good weekend. That is Adam Auslund right there. Great stuff. Obviously, I mentioned Clippers radio, and I like the perspective that he's able to give, too, on a lot of these different topics. He's a huge NBA fan, and it's got a lot that he can offer. So shout out to Adam for making that happen and coming on the show. Okay, we got, let's see what we got here. We got a bunch of comments here that I'm going to get into. I still got some topics. I want to hit on PJ Washington, something about Cameron Carr, and something that Shaq said about Deandre Ayton. So we're going to get into all that in just a second. I want to look at some of the comments as well. Before I do so, let's give some love to our partner. Let's give some love to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm, phenomenal partner here. Something that was really, really cool, and shout out to our listeners. About a week ago, I had Brad Wallace on, and, we talked basketball, talked everything else. I've told you guys, if you need an injury attorney, he's the best in the business. I hope you guys never need him. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. Last week after he comes off, and it was really cool in the chat, people were giving love to our partners, so I appreciate you guys doing that. That does mean a lot. It's obviously, it makes him feel right at home that he's a partner of the channel. But he hits me up last week, and he's like, after the show, and he sends me a text basically saying that one of the listeners had reached out to him and is trying to figure out if, obviously Brad can help with his case and everything else. He's had that happen a number of different times. So thank you all to kind of trusting me, trusting my word, and trusting Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. If you need an injury attorney, you can help anybody in the state of California. They are the best in the business, period. And he continues to try to help out our listeners. So thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting me. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa is the website, or you could just send me a personal email and I'll connect with him on it and make sure that you guys connect with Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of the comments here, and then we'll continue to go with our show here. And I'll mention something on PJ Washington here real quick, which could be the latest. I give Philly 4 months before it all implodes. Could happen. You're not wrong there. And I understand if that's how you feel. Rui is the worst rebounder for a 6'8", 240-pound man that you'll ever see. Not wrong on that one. Pay Kuminga $15 to $18 million a season, but draw the line there. Yeah, I think it's complicated. A sign and trade is complicated. Atlanta already has 17 players on their roster. It's a 3-year commitment if you do sign him, and that sounds like something that he's not crazy about. So I think there's a lot of complications on the Kuminga front. But to be honest with you, I think if they just continue to hold out, maybe there's no choice here but for him to end up with the Lakers. So we'll see what happens here. But the only news I saw, last night and today is that Minnesota probably out of the mix. So something to keep in mind there. Probably the Minnesota Timberwolves out of the mix in regards to this because they can only offer the minimum. Ballmer's chances of surviving this is greater than Silver's. There's enough evidence to penalize the Clippers. The NBA is becoming a joke with the gambling and the Clippers fiasco. This Clipper thing, I mean, that was the news yesterday in the NBA. The news yesterday, not even just in the NBA, it became a front story on ESPN. Obviously, Pablo Torre was part of ESPN for years. And his work that he's doing is uncovering more than the NBA ever would. By the way, I think this is safe to say. If Pablo Torre, the only reason why any of this stuff happened is because Pablo Torre put it out in the open. So you could just imagine this isn't the NBA being proactive. This is the NBA being reactive. They have to be the ones to react to this because there's the pressure on them once Pablo Torre put a lot of this stuff out. This is whack. NBA should have done their own investigation earlier. I think they had enough info to hand down the punishment, and it shouldn't have happened during the season. This is bad for the Clips and the NBA. I agree. I mean, I'm even tying this back to, I went to San Diego State University. Kawhi Leonard obviously was in a Sweet 16 at San Diego State University. I'm like, this looks bad for our program. I mean, Kawhi has this this whole thing is just looking bad for everybody. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Got the NBA Jam thing in the background there. That's solid. That's solid. All right, let me keep going on a couple more topics here, and I appreciate you guys being a part of the show here. I want to just real quick do this. I want to just hit on PJ Washington for a quick second. So I saw this yesterday, and Mark Stein in his Substack, and obviously we all know how great Mark Stein is with his reporting. So Mark Stein reported that Masai Ujiri is a fan of PJ Washington. Ujiri, for the record, this is what Mark Stein said. Ujiri, for the record, is also said to be a fan of PJ Washington, despite the long-held belief among rival teams that PJ Washington, like fellow Nico Harrison acquisitions Daniel Gafford and Klay Thompson, will remain a trade candidate. So basically what Mark Stein is saying there, that Masai Ujiri, look, this could be a complete bluff, right? But let me just put it out there. And if I'm Masai Ujiri, I would do the same thing. It's like, no, I don't want to get rid of PJ Washington. He's a phenomenal player. He's a veteran. He's perfect for our youngsters. We want him part of this organization for the next, for the duration of his 4-year, $88 million contract. And then once he says he's done saying that, I'm sure he's saying, hey, what can we get for PJ Washington, right? Like that's not uncommon in the league. Happens all the time. You don't want people to see your hands at the poker table. It could be just that. But I think what this did for me, reading this article and seeing the Mark Stein Substack, I feel like for the Lakers, there's a realization that's kind of happening here if it's not Jonathan Kuminga. If it ain't Kuminga, they probably just roll into the season with this roster that they have. Is it perfect? No. Is it incomplete? Probably. Do they have to be in this rush? Like, can't they target a player like PJ Washington as you get closer to the trade deadline? Can't they target Daniel Gafford as you get closer to the trade? By the way, maybe neither of these players they end up targeting and they go look at somebody else. Would it be crazy for the Lakers to say, well, let's just start the season with the team that we have, with all the new faces that we have, see how it fits with JJ Redick, see how Walker Kessler is doing for the Lakers. They don't have to be in this mad rush. I think here's what happened. The Jonathan Kuminga thing, I think at one point didn't feel all that realistic early in the offseason, and then it felt like, hey, no, they could probably get him. And I think it's kind of caused this frenzy about, all right, can you just get Jonathan Kuminga? Can you get him at a discount? Can you get him at a kind of a team-friendly deal? And that's why there's been so much conversation, I think, about Jonathan Kuminga. PJ Washington is a natural one. Everybody just keeps tying PJ Washington to the Lakers because he played with Luka. And he's already a player that it seems like can fit with the Lakers automatically because of his time with Luka Dončić. But when the dust settles, if hypothetically Jonathan Kuminga signed with the Cavs and they don't go make a move for PJ Washington, one of these other players, why don't they just run with the team that they have? And maybe other players are stepping up. Maybe it shows more glaring holes. And maybe the Lakers obviously have more of an opportunity come trade deadline to do some things. I mean, listen, are there some players on their roster that just don't make any sense? Vando doesn't seem like a player. Not that he has no value, but it feels like with the Lakers, there's not that much value there. We'll see what happens. Dalton Connect, does he need to be on a different team? Of course. Jake LaRavia, I mean, it's fine. I've used this analogy before. He's like a dude that just eats up innings for your bullpen. Yeah, you're up 6-1 or you're down 6-1. It's like throw Jake LaRavia in there and have him go pitch two innings. He's going to eat up time. in the regular season. And then if you obviously don't want to use him in the postseason, but he's on a expiring $6 million deal. It's not like that's a big deal. So do they have some players that are probably not going to be there? Sure. And I think that part's going to be interesting. Now, one player that I will say that I think will certainly be an interesting commodity for the Lakers, Cameron Carr. We had Keith Smith on. I can't remember. Was it this week or last week? I can't remember. I think it was last week. Yeah. Keith Smith was on a week ago, a little bit over a week ago. And here's something Keith Smith brought back from the Summer League. An anonymous Lakers front office executive told Keith Smith at Summer League that Cameron Carr will have to fight for playing time, but the chance to play right away is there for him. Let me read the exact quote. Super excited to have Cam. He'll have to win his minutes because his group is really deep, but he's a worker. So that'll give him a chance to play right away. Cam did a lot off the bounce at Summer League, so that was fun to see. But early on, we'll keep it easy for him. Make your open jumpers and defend. So that message that Keith Smith got from an anonymous Laker front office executive is Cameron Carr is going to have opportunities, but he's going to have to earn his minutes. It's going to be tough for a rookie to really have a big role for a franchise and a team, unless you're, Dylan Harper or Cooper Flagg, right? Like it's and these are number 1 and number 2 picks. Not to say that doesn't happen more often, but it's going to be tough for Cameron Carr. I mean, Adu Thero's going to obviously want his fair share of opportunities. They just went out there and got Quentin Grimes, Matisse Thybulle, Zaire Williams. Obviously, these are players. They're not all playing the same position, but you guys know what I'm referring to. But I think that's interesting, right? Like, I think that's kind of cool. Cameron Carr is going to get his chances. He's going to get his opportunities, and we'll see, what he's obviously able to do with it. So I think that part's going to be interesting to watch. Final topic I want to get into, and then we'll take a look at some of the comments and go from there. Final comment or final topic is going to be something that I saw here. It's just a quote that I'm going to read for everybody, but just kind of tells you probably also how a lot of Laker fans felt. Shaq kind of going at DeAndre Ayton. All right, let me see what I got here. Okay, so in an interview with Heavy.com, Shaq talking DeAndre Ayton. Here's what he said. I don't know what the Lakers offense is going to look like yet, but you got guys, they can do a lot of stuff around the rim, unlike dominating, who didn't do anything. So Shaq very, very clear with his thoughts on DeAndre Ayton. Obviously, his time with the Los Angeles Lakers just 1 year. He's excited about what the Lakers can be in their offense, but also takes a shot at DeAndre Ayton. Now, you're talking about Shaquille O'Neal, who's one of the greatest centers of all time, one of the greatest Lakers centers of all time, 3 NBA championships, 3 finals MVPs. I mean, this Shaquille O'Neal can't get any higher than a bar for a center. You probably looked at DeAndre Ayton and was like, what is this guy? You got this size, you got this potential, and you can't impact games on a night in, night out basis. So Shaq takes a little shot at DeAndre. And he also said this. He said that, Luka Dončić, the Lakers obviously starting over and moving on from LeBron. He says, it's what we call the business of basketball. When you get older and you're still playing at a high level, you're still trying to demand high money. Sometimes as a franchise, you have to say, do I want to pay this guy this much money for the next 2 years, or do I want to get younger? I knew when they brought in Luka Dončić, they were looking to start over. That's obviously exactly what happened with the Lakers. Okay, let me get to a couple NBA stories. I'll read your comments. We'll call it a Friday. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for being a part of the show. Do me a favor. Subscribe, like, and share to this channel. Let's get to 40,000 subscribers. That's the next kind of threshold I want to hold for the channel. We're closing in on 37,000 subscribers. But please, if you like this channel, it's free. You don't got to pay anything. It's a great way to support the channel. Just please subscribe to the channel. Shams Charania on NBA Today was reporting on the Denver Nuggets that they're in active trade talks with the Cavs, the Bucks, and the Clippers regarding restricted free agent Peyton Watson. The Nuggets are in some trouble. They got some bad contracts. It doesn't feel like, give them all the credit in the world. They won their first NBA championship a couple of years back, and the franchise's first NBA championship. But I don't know if they're a stock, I feel like that stock is going down. I don't feel like that stock is going up. So we'll see what happens. But either they're going to trade him, Shams Charania has said, or you could potentially have him back on a 1-year, $6.5 million qualifying offer, and then he's going to walk away next year. And Peyton Watson's definitely going to have some people that are interested. Dillon Brooks signed a 3-year, $73 million extension with the Phoenix Suns, keeping him with the team through the 2029-2030 season. That's a perfect fit for him. Dillon Brooks, I think, has done a nice job with the Phoenix Suns, and he'll continue to kind of shine in his role. All right, a couple of comments here. We're going to call it a day. See what we got here. I think we should focus on another big. That way Mamu could focus on playing the 4. Carr needs to get stronger. Yeah, I think that was one of his things coming into the draft, where if anybody was critical about it, that's what they were critical about, that he had to get stronger. I want Cameron Carr to go to training camp and show Austin Reeves up and take his starting guard position. People already coming at Austin Reeves. Can we just wait on Reeves? Reeves not a second up. Can we give it a second? I'm with you. No, I get it. I'm I feel a certain way. I align more with, I think, Laker fans when it comes to the Austin Reeves part. If that's the second best player on your team, you're not truly competing. You're not. I mean, that's just my opinion there. All right. I hope Carr actually gets playing time, especially at the guard position. We are a guard-heavy team. Let's see if I can get one more. The Lakers kind of look desperate. They shouldn't sign any player out of desperation. Yeah, but it's not a – guys, I'll go back to this with Jonathan Kuminga. You're not signing Jonathan Kuminga to a $200 million contract. He'll probably get $45 to $50 million if it's a 3-year deal. And if it's a 1-year deal, what are you really paying him? I don't think it's desperate. I think it's they need to fill in that spot, and that's the best version for them to do so. All right, I think we are. I think we're done here. I think we're done for the day. I think we're done for the week. My people, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being a part of the channel. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Shout out to Eric Scalar producing. Thank you to Adam Auslund for joining the show. A fun week this week. Next week, I'm working on a couple of interviews, so I'll just kind of keep you guys posted. As I get them set, we'll come on. Obviously, if there's something breaking that happens, we'll also come on. So we'll focus on that. Thank you for being a part of the show. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday, and I will see you guys next week. I'll keep you posted on what day. Thank you, everybody.